Hey guys, what we're going to be talking about today is the periodic table of elements, HyperDoc, and I'm going to be showing you the section that is the periodic table basics. So basically how to determine how many protons, electrons, neutrons an element has, and that's going to be the first part of this. We're going to do something else tomorrow with the other part of the sheet that I'm giving you, but for now we're only doing the first part and I'll show you exactly what that is. All right. So this is the periodic table basics sheet. We're going to do the first half today, which is just the part with the squares. We are not doing the diagrams or the structures today. We're going to do that another lesson. We're only focusing on how to find protons, neutrons, and electrons and how to read each element on the periodic table. All right, so first off, there's a couple things that when you are looking at this, and I have attached a link that you can either print out. If you're printing this out at home, I would suggest putting 2 pages on one, or you can make it large, it's up to you. But this is how to read each element and how to find out what information it's providing. So this top number is your atomic number. This is going to tell us how many protons and electrons are in it. So for silicon has 14 protons and 14 electrons. This abbreviation is called the symbol or the element symbol, and the first letter is always capitalized. If there's any 2 or 3 letters afterwards, they are lowercase. So the first letter is always capitalized. The number that's typically underneath the symbol is the atomic mass. So this is actually what is in the nucleus. So it tells us how many protons and neutrons are in there. And then if it's not at the bottom, sometimes it's underneath the symbol, but you do have the element name. So all of the periodic tables have some form of information. It might be mixed around a little bit, but you can usually tell the atomic mass is the one that has the decimal, and then the atomic number is the one that's above towards the top. So again, as long as you understand atomic number tells us protons and electrons, and the atomic mass is basically your nucleus, then that's half the battle. So now we're going to figure out, and again, if you printed this out, you can just type or write this in. So now to figure out the atomic number, there's a little mnemonic, ape man. So ape for atomic number means protons equal electrons. Some people also like to use the funny acronym P-E-E, meaning protons equals electrons. Whatever helps you, just remember the atomic number is your protons and your electrons. All right, now to find neutrons, this is where you got to do some work. What you're going to do is you're going to take the atomic mass, so that's your decimal, and you're going to round it to the nearest whole number. So 28.086 is rounded to 28. So we're going to use 28. And once you've got 28, what you're going to do is you're going to take the mass minus the number. So it'd be 28 minus 14, and whatever's left over is your neutrons. And think about it. If this is protons and electrons, and your mass is your proton neutrons, if you basically take the protons out, that's going to tell you how many neutrons are left over. So we're going to go ahead. So if you don't have this written down in your notebook, I would definitely get this written down. And then if you don't have this written down, definitely get this written down. So remember, ape is atomic number equals protons, which equals electrons. Man is an acronym that stands for mass minus the atomic number equals neutrons. So let's go ahead and let's get started with the actual periodic table basics. All right, so you are going to need a periodic table, and you may either print one out, I have one linked into the thing, or you can go to ptable.com, super easy, ptable.com, and it looks like this. All right, so the first one on our periodic table basics is nitrogen. So we're going to go over to nitrogen, and if you just hover over it, you can see it'll pop up over here, but no, I'm not hovering over it anymore. So if you're looking at nitrogen, the very top number is 7. That means, so on your little square, and I'll show you what I'm writing in a second. So your atomic number means how many protons and how many electrons. So in this case, nitrogen has 7 protons and 7 electrons. And then you're going to write the atomic name is nitrogen. And the atomic mass is 14. And you can round that to the nearest whole number right now and just write 14. But 14.007 is the atomic mass. And I'm just writing it as 14. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what I'm doing on my paper. All right. So, like we said, on my periodic table, the atomic number was 7. So that means you have 7 protons, and that also means you have 7 electrons in a neutral atom or neutral element. We do not know what neutrons are yet. This is where you got to do some work. In this case, it's pretty easy. So remember, you're going to do mass minus the number equals neutrons. Okay, so the atomic mass minus the atomic number is going to give you neutrons. So our atomic mass is 14. Our atomic number is 7. So 14 minus 7 equals 7. So in this case, we happen to have 7 protons, 7 neutrons, 7 electrons. It does not always work out that way, but that's typically, in this case, this is correct. So again, we're not worrying about this part. That'll be for another lesson. Now we're going to move to aluminum. So I'm going to go back to ptable.com or your periodic table if you printed one out. I'm going to go to Al, which is aluminum. So the atomic number is 13. And you have to write small. Aluminum. And the atomic mass is 26.982. I'm going to round that to the nearest whole number, which is 27. All right. So, but the atomic mass is 26.982. I just rounded it to 27 just to make our lives a little bit easier for this second part. All right, so here's what I have written down. So, since the atomic number is 13, your protons are 13 and your electrons are 13. All right, so now to get neutrons, you have to do some work. So you got to go atomic mass minus the atomic number. So you have 27 minus 13. And that's actually going to give you 14. So like I said, remember, it's not always going to be the same for protons, neutrons, and electrons. But in this case, in the first case it was, but in this case it is not. So remember, all we did to get neutrons was you went 27 minus 13, and you got 14. All right? Now we're going to go to F on the periodic table of elements. And for fluorine, the atomic number is 9. You're going to write fluorine, Fluorine. And the atomic mass is 18.998. So I'm going to round it to the nearest whole number and make it 19. Okay. Oops. All right, so in yours, you should write 9, fluorine, and 19. So remember, atomic number are your protons and your electrons. Neutrons, we have to do some work. So neutrons, you're going to go mass minus the atomic number, and 19 minus 9 is 10. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through and you're going to complete the other cards, only this square part with protons, neutrons, electrons. I will give you a hint. I believe hydrogen is one that is different as far as neutrons, but all the others, but it still follows the same rules. Your atomic number is your protons and your electrons in a neutral atom. Your neutrons is your atomic mass minus your atomic number. And once you've got this first part done, then that's basically how you're able to find protons, neutrons, and electrons using the periodic table.